Welcome to Charts Today. My name's David Linton, and today's edition for Monday, the 24th of September, comes to you from London. Dollar is actually still bearish below the cloud in the short term after the falls we saw at the end of last week, but we are still just finding a little bit of support in the medium term. But dollar still remains a bit bearish. Euro, of course, above the cloud against the dollar, looking still bullish. And that medium term transition, which we see this week, moves higher on the euro. We will start to make that transition to medium term bearish for the euro, bullish for the euro against the dollar. Against the Japanese yen, dollar still looking bullish, and this long-term transition is really quite key there for the dollar. And if we look at sterling, sterling holding the 131 mark this morning. It has sunk back below the cloud, but we are still looking better and better as we just head to move through the cloud there. So sterling above 130 is still looking pretty good, although short term we are just seeing a little bit of a sell-off there. Against the euro, not looking as good, and we're still bearish on all three time frames there. Against the Swiss franc, we're lower after last week's falls on the Brexit breakdown at Salzburg, and against the Aussie dollar back to the 180 level. Looking at the Bitcoin chart, we see we're holding the bullish position short term, but we are just struggling, and medium and long term charts still don't look great. Looking at the US markets, the end of last week we saw the S&P 500 pushing to a new all-time high, the Nasdaq also pushing higher, and the Dow also at last just taking a move above that high that we saw at the start of the year. So the Dow now pushing higher as well, and the Russell 2000 index also pushing higher. But markets looking pretty subdued this morning off the trade woes. The S&P future down just over 0.1%. The Nasdaq future down over a third. The mini, so a third of a percent. So it does look like the US markets will open lower, and we're seeing that sentiment carrying through to European markets. UK down. We're seeing pretty much about a third of a percent down on most markets. The DAX and the CAC Current also just pushing lower. Japan still looking better on that short-term chart, just holding on the gains there, and the Hang Seng Index also just pushing a little bit higher, just struggling still to get a medium-term bullish picture. And the Chinese market, of course, has looked weak of late, but recovering there. So we are just seeing a push higher there as well. So that's looking better there too. The Sensex, we're seeing still a continuing sell-off there, and the Aussie market actually looking a little bit better on the short-term chart. Brent crude sitting above $80 this morning, so that's looking more bullish. That's a quite a breakout. That's the highest level we've seen in Brent for years, really. So Brent crude now looking very bullish indeed. So we're seeing now pushing into the higher levels there, and WTI also pushing higher. So we are just seeing crude oil prices rising. US natgas sitting at $2.98 and not really budging there. Gold sitting at $11.98, just below this $1,200 mark. Fell away quite heavily on Friday and just hasn't really recovered there. And silver is just holding its short-term bullish position. US 10-year yields still well above that 3% level. We were at 3.10 at the end of last week, but we are just sitting at 3.08% at the moment. Tech stocks still looking a little bit mixed. Apple still short-term bearish. Amazon also still short-term bearish. And Google also just struggling to get above the cloud there on the short term. And Facebook still looking pretty weak in the low 160s area. Microsoft actually bucking the trend a bit here, looking pretty strong at $114, making new all-time highs. That's it for today. Until tomorrow, happy charting. See you then.